Welcome back to another episode of the PS We Expire podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Motsinger, and on episode 6 today, we are talking about people pleasing, why we do it, and how to stop, if we need to stop, which we do. Today is all about understanding the internal reasons why we people please. We're talking about what it means to stop people pleasing, to set up boundaries. And we're talking about how uncomfortable and difficult it is to stop people pleasing. So thank you for joining me today. I hope this helps. I am stupidly excited to talk to you about this today. This has been a hard-earned lesson for me over the last couple of years as I've had some fairly monumental changes in my personal life. And this is not an easy lesson per se, because the only way to really learn it is to be so terribly uncomfortable. I'm talking about people pleasing. I'm talking about people pleasing today. There are many reasons why we people please. I don't like this idea of making people pleasing part of our identity, where we say like, oh, I am a people pleaser. Oh, not really. I mean, all of us want to please people to a certain degree. And as I'll get into in a little bit, people pleasing isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I'll talk about why we people please. I want to talk about what it is, why we do it, and how we stop. How do we stop doing it? So the first thing that I want to say is, as social creatures, pleasing others is a huge part of our safety, our security, and our connection. So reciprocity, meaning when others put the effort back toward you, the same that you're putting out, when both parties feel that the value of the effort is equitable. So to the degree of effort that you're putting into connection, communication in the relationship, to the degree that someone else is giving that same amount of effort back, feels like a very safe and connected relationship. So this is hardwired into our nervous systems. If you think about what life has been like for people over the course of human history, except until recently, we have been part of small groups. So historically, we would have had maybe like 100 people that were connected to us in our lives as we lived in smaller groups. And, you know, living with extended family was much more normal than it is now. So just in the last several hundred years have things changed to the degree that we are open and available to a wider group of people to give input into our lives, whether that's in the form of criticism or in the form of someone patting us on the back and telling us, hey, good job, way to go. So we're much more vulnerable now. Our nervous systems are much more vulnerable now to a wider variety of input from people that don't even have a stake in our lives, truly. So if you think about the network of community and connection that we have, if you think about it on like as a target, so in the very center you have maybe the 5 people who are closest to you, maybe not necessarily even like physical proximity, but the people who speak the most into your life, the people whose opinion that you listen to the most. So you have 5 people on the inner circle. Then you have a wider group of people that maybe are part of your community, part of your business community, your career community, work community, religious community, your physical local community, et cetera, whatever groups that you happen to be a part of, people that you see on a fairly regular basis. Then you have maybe friends on the internets, people that know you, that have known you in years past, probably aren't a huge part of your story or your daily doings now, but are still part of people who you would consider that you know. And then you have the general population who still probably has way more access to you, way more access to understanding what you're interested in, what you're doing in your life than ever before in human history, just through the way that we're connected on the internet. through social media, through websites, if you blog, if you do YouTube videos, etc. So many people have access to being able to talk to us and comment about our lives than ever before, more than ever before in human history. So the way that I see this being problematic is that our technology has advanced much faster than our nervous systems. So it takes a long time for a microevolution to happen for us to catch up with the rate at which our technology has developed over the last, even over the last 25 years. I remember being in college. I'm in my late 30s now, but I remember being in college when Facebook came out, the first social media platform, really. MySpace was around and we had like AOL Instant Messenger and email, but it wasn't the same kind of connectivity as we have now. So I remember Facebook coming out and being like, not understanding what a big impact this was going to have on our world. So getting back to people pleasing. So if we understand that basic human needs for connection and security, that is hardwired into us. So wanting to please other people is not inherently a bad thing. Going with the flow, having shared values, having shared responsibilities for the things in our lives was deeply, deeply important to our survival. Now, as we have become more industrialized, more independent, we have a lot more time for things outside of just our basic necessities. I'm speaking from obviously like a really privileged position in the United States, and also as somebody who's in, I would say, like working middle class and a white woman. So there are a lot of things that I'm speaking about from that place of privilege, and I understand that. Knowing that we have much more flexibility and free time to pursue interests outside of just our basic survival needs also plays a really big part into this people-pleasing thing. So when we are not reliant on other people so much and have our minds so tied up in some of those basic needs, we have much more flexibility in our schedules, much more flexibility in the time that we spend with other people, and the way that we're utilizing our time in more extracurricular activities, I guess you could say. So our need for connecting and being on the same page as people is extremely important at some of those basic levels. It becomes less so important as you get up into things that are not necessities, but our brains will still view being outside of the norms or being outside of the way that everybody else is doing it as extremely dangerous to our well-being. What I see as problematic with people pleasing is when the cost of pleasing others is at the expense of your well-being or integrity. So if what you feel on the inside is not what you're giving on the outside, there's dissonance. One of the easiest ways to understand what I'm talking about is when someone asks you to do something that on the inside you're like, ugh, like I really don't want to do that. It could be even a friend who, invites you to an activity with them. And you like this friend, you like spending time with them, but for whatever reason, you just don't want to do that thing. And you feel that in your body. You feel this desire to say no, but because you have either been in the habit of saying yes, or you don't want to let this friend down, you say yes. And you cause this friction with yourself because internally you are saying something different than what you're saying externally. So you're building up this kind of relationship with yourself of dishonesty. And this can cause a lot of bigger problems the more that you do this. If you are living in a way that is not full of integrity for yourself. Now, I'm not talking about being a jerk to people and, never doing things that you don't want to do. I think that also can be massively problematic. But really, more what I'm talking about here is how important it is for us to not be disconnected from ourselves and from the things that we truly believe and the things that we truly want to do. Another way that this will show up is if you keep your opinions to yourself for fear of what others will think of you. Perhaps you are conservative and you're in a liberal family or a liberal friend group, or vice versa. You're liberal and you're in a conservative friend group or community. Perhaps you have different views than most of the people in your religious community. Perhaps you have a different perspective on things than some of your close friends and family members do. How often do you keep your opinions to yourself for fear of rocking the boat or creating conflict or people thinking that you're a weirdo or whatever other things that they might think about you or say to you if you venture to speak about things differently than the majority does in your community? If you actively avoid confrontation, even when you know that boundaries need to be set, if you say yes when you really want to say no, those behaviors result in bitterness and resentment. That's when people pleasing becomes a problem. So I've already talked about why people pleasing is hardwired into us and how it actually aided us and was a really important part of our community connection and survival, through the centuries, and how it has become a problem in more recent years. So if you find yourself saying, okay, yeah, like some of this resonates with me, I want to give you 4 reasons why we people please. So number 1, we people please when we are insecure. We people please when we don't feel like we are worth taking up space with our beliefs, with our opinions, with our feelings. If we are feeling insecure, like we don't have any right to show up truly as ourselves. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why we people please. Number 2, oh man, this is a hard one. Okay, number 2 is a fear of lack of control. I don't know how many people would say that this is a reason that we people please, but this has certainly been one of the driving factors for me in some situations why I people please. I will say this, the 4 reasons that we people please, you could have all 4, you could have 2, you could have 1, and it can vary from situation to situation, relationship to relationship. So this one, a fear of lack of control. I grew up with the belief that anger was very, very dangerous, which has made me extremely conflict avoidant in my life and has been really problematic in developing true, authentic relationships. So there would be things that I would feel myself getting upset about or angry about, and I would just tuck them away and keep them hidden, because I thought that anger was very, very dangerous. I remember even being in college and watching an intramural soccer game, and when I would see people, in a completely normal, competitive college intramural sports way, getting up in each other's business about a call that was made or something, and I could feel this like nervousness and anxiety rising up in me, even though I wasn't even part of what was happening. It wasn't me that was in it. I was watching from the bleachers, and I could feel the stress of the confrontation rising up in me because I was so conflict averse and so anger avoidant. So this is being fearful of a lack of control over other people's perceptions of me. So if I'm going to people please, this is my attempt to control all the moving pieces, particularly controlling the narrative and the beliefs that other people have about me. If I stop people pleasing, In my mind, I'm thinking if I stop, actually, I wouldn't even say consciously I was aware of this, but this is what was happening below the surface. If I don't please the other people in my life, I may have to deal with their anger, their disappointment, their resentment, their misunderstanding me. So I was very fearful of not being in control of those things. Now, got a newsflash for you. It was a newsflash for me, is that I literally don't have control over what anybody else thinks. Like ever. I'll come back to that in a little bit, but that's number 2, fear of having a lack of control. Number 3, why do we people please? We may have some beliefs about what being a good person is. So we may have been raised with a belief that good people, good wives, good friends, good community members, good parents sacrifice their own wants and their own needs for other people, always. That you never put yourself first. You never think of yourself before you think of others. If you're going to say no to anybody, you're going to say no to yourself. I was raised with this belief that I should always, always, always consider others first. And I don't know how much of that really was like an overt teaching from my family or my community, my school, whatever, all the, early childhood influences. But that is one of the beliefs that I came away from my childhood with, was that putting myself first and considering myself first was awful, and it was completely selfish. So one of the reasons why we people please is if we have particular beliefs about what being a good person is. And typically those beliefs revolve around, if you're going to disappoint anybody, you better disappoint yourself. If you're going to put anybody last, it better be you. If you're going to say yes to someone to help them, it's going to be other people, not you. Okay, number 4. I think this is a really big one. Number 4, one of the reasons why we people please is because we have a lack of personal direction. So we're out of tune with ourselves. We're not sure how to listen to our intuition. We haven't decided on our beliefs for ourselves. We're kind of just operating on the beliefs that have been handed to us, beliefs from other people, from authority figures, and we have never done the work to really sift through what we want for ourselves, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe is possible in the world. And so we kind of are just running on autopilot. And this one's really interesting because a lot of times we'll get these subtle messages from our bodies that we're not really sure how to interpret. So I really do think that this one is really closely tied with insecurity, that when we don't believe that we have intrinsic value and worth, when we don't believe that our opinions are valid, that our feelings are important, and that our desires and our drives and our purpose in the world is not important or not as important as others, a lot of times it can be very jarring and confusing to start to listen to these messages that our bodies are giving to us. And I would say that our deep selves are giving to us, not ourselves, OURSELVES, but our space, capital S selves. So I'm going to do a little aside here because I think this is a really important point to make. All of us have these personalities and these identities that we have learned make us acceptable and safe in the world. So it's almost like putting on layers and layers and layers of clothes and masks because we've heard, oh, I should be like this. 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 And we're just kind of like layering all of this onto us because we don't believe that at our core, perhaps that we are worth it. And again, like, I really don't believe that this is a conscious thing. This is things that we learn in childhood, are the ways that we're able to have people love us and accept us. So we become to other people what we believe we need to be in order to be loved and accepted and taken care of. So we layer on all this stuff. And as we become adults, and I do believe that hardship and grief are some of the best and most unwelcome, but most powerful tools of unlayering. So when we have challenges and grief and loss that come into our lives, we become much more invested in understanding why we're doing the things that we're doing. Why am I making the choices that I'm making? Why am I continuing to do these things that I don't understand why I'm doing them, even though I want to change? Why do I continue to have these like health things that come up? Why do I continue to have these loops and these patterns repeating in my relationships? Grief and loss and hardships help us become very, very clear on what the truth is. So it helps us become much more in tune with that integrity piece that I was talking about earlier, when what's on the outside doesn't match what's on the inside. So whatever final layer we happen to have on right now, whatever mask we have created, whatever clothing we have put on to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe, our capital S selves safe, trauma, grief, loss, hardship helps us dig below the surface and understand who am I? Who am I at my core? And helps us slowly peel back the layers to reveal who that is to others and to ourselves. So some of this is we put those layers on as a way to please other people. And so the 4 reasons why we people please, that's as we ask ourselves those questions. Okay, do I sometimes people please out of insecurity? Do I sometimes people please because of fear of a lack of control? Do I sometimes people please because of my belief system about what it is to be a quote unquote good person? Do I sometimes people please because I have a lack of personal direction? What these questions do is force you to be introspective, to look beneath the layers and decide how to peel off said layers to be more of who you really are. This is the most important work that you will do in your life. And a lot of times it is very, very difficult and painful. Any coach or counselor or person who is selling you something that tells you that they have the trick to doing it faster and more painlessly is not telling you the truth. And because what it's going to do is it will likely change your friendships. It will change your relationships with people who maybe have been in your life for a really long time. When you stop people pleasing, there are people who are going to be really not okay with it, like at all. Oh man, stopping people pleasing cycles isn't about not caring about those people anymore. So I want you to hear me. There's a lot of people who will talk about stopping the cycle of people pleasing by just not caring anymore what people think. And I really don't believe that that is even possible. You know, I've already talked about how we are hardwired to fit in because at our core, physiologically, our brains think that our survival still depends on that. So this is not something that we really can ever remove from ourselves. I think that it's really foolish to try and do that, because what that requires is continued separation between your brain and your body. So anything that requires you to do that is just going to create problems for you down the road. This right here, I'm about to tell you the key. And I'm really excited about it because when you learn this key, this is not only important and necessary for breaking out the cycles of people pleasing, but it is the key to living a life that is completely authentic. Okay, so before I tell you that, I'll go back to what I was just saying. Stopping people pleasing isn't about not caring about what other people think. It is about managing our own emotions that flare up when people are upset with us, misunderstand us, criticize us, tell false stories about us, break relationships with us. Okay, that's the key. That's the key. And if you can learn this, this will change your life. Stopping people pleasing isn't about not caring about other people anymore. It's about internal management. So a little while ago, I said that when we have a fear of lack of control, and I said that it was so freeing for me to realize that I have zero control over what other people think. This is true in every area of your life. Every area of your life. If you learn how to be okay with feeling bad, there's nothing that you can't do. So think about this. If you know that someone asks you to do something and you don't want to do it, for whatever reason, it could be because it doesn't align with your values. It could be because it doesn't align with your schedule. It could be just because you have benchmarked that time and that energy for something else that's important to you. If you can be okay with allowing yourself to feel that on the inside, feel the no, and to say the no, and let that other person have whatever emotions they're going to have, knowing that there's no way that you can, like pop their heads open and get in there and move some levers on their emotional, power board or whatever to make them okay with you saying no, or whatever you need to say. You're expressing an opinion that that they're not going to agree with, whatever. If you can be okay with feeling uncomfortable yourself, knowing that someone else may be very disappointed or very uncomfortable with what you're saying, that's power right there. That is personal power. And you will find that as you learn how to manage your own emotions, the less afraid you will be to do things in the world. So you will become less afraid to try new things. You will be less afraid of failure. You will be less afraid of hurting other people's feelings. This isn't like a permission slip, again, to go out there and just be a total jerk to the world, which I don't think aligns with the people who listen to this podcast. I don't think that aligns with your values anyway. But this is a permission slip for you to understand that the only person who has the ability to make powerful, positive change in your life is you. There's nobody else in your life, even the people who love you the most. There's nobody else in your life who is going to be as invested, as concerned as you are about your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. Nobody. Nobody else is going to be able to inspire and motivate you in the way that you need them to. Nobody else can be there consistently for you. This is an inside job. And emotional management not only changes the cycles of people pleasing, but it will also change your relationship with food. It will change your relationship with your body. It will change your relationship with trying new hard things. It will change your relationship with failure. Emotional management isn't about stopping feelings that don't feel good. Emotional management is about learning how to let everything come to you, understanding that it is a teacher, understanding that it is a amazing, beautiful part of this human experience, learning how to let emotions move through you instead of stuffing and storing them. It is learning how to use your emotions purposefully when you want to. If you learn how things feel in your body, that also enables you to drum up those feelings when you want to use them. So the more in touch that you become with the subtleties of certain emotions in your body, I mean, I think the average, if you were in a group of people and you were all kind of working together to name emotions, I think the max that people typically come up with is like 7, but there are hundreds of emotions, and they all feel different in your body. Some of them feel similar, but the more that you become in touch with how they feel, the more that you can put them to work for you to not only teach you things about yourself, but to help you uncover where some of your limiting beliefs are, to help you uncover some areas of maybe trauma that you haven't addressed, to help you uncover areas where you're not living in alignment, where you're not living in integrity, to help you uncover areas where you see real beauty and wonder and direction in your life. So this work of really truly understanding ourselves and investing time and energy into introspection is one of the best, not even one of, it is the best thing that you can devote yourself to in this life. What I want to leave you with is a quote that has just made such like a beautiful, wonderful impact on me when I think about the ways that I still people please. And it's this: you will stop caring so much about what others think of you when you realize how seldom they do. Back to what I was saying about there's nobody else, even the people closest to you, who are going to take care of you the way that you are able to take care of yourself. Everybody's got their own stuff that they're dealing with. Everybody has got their own things that they're thinking about, and the ways that you are impacting their lives. We're all hardwired to just think about ourselves like that. Okay. And when we realize how seldom other people really think about us and think about the choices that we make, it becomes much more clear to us whose opinion is very, very important and whose attention and intention in our lives is most important. I guarantee you it's not the people on the outskirts. It's not, your friends on Facebook that you haven't ever really met in real life, or that friend on Facebook that you went to high school with, or, it's not even the people in your outer circle who have access to you every once in a while, or even on a regular basis. It's not the people in that most innermost circle. I will talk about this on a future podcast about how important it is to be intentional about who is in that inner circle with you. But it's you. You are the one whose opinion of you matters the most. You are the one who understands and who can see the mission and purpose that you have. You're the only one who is able to gain clarity around what your feelings are telling you. There's a lot of tools that can help you be introspective, but you are it. You're it. You're the one. And you are the only one who is going to break out of the cycle of people pleasing. I know that having a lifelong habit of not thinking about yourself can be very, very challenging to overcome, because if you're used to making sure that everybody else is always okay at the expense of yourself, there's a lot of emotion that you have not been willing to address, or had the tools to address, or even known to address. And this is no exercise in shaming you for any reason, or shaming myself for the ways that we have pleased people at the expense of ourselves. There's no shame in that. It's just a clarifying understanding of why we perpetuate these behaviors and how they are harming us. So I hope that this episode is helpful to you on your journey to not only explore yourself, but to really, truly be who you are in your world, whatever that looks like. Whatever that looks like, to be authentic and full of integrity when what's happening on the inside matches what's showing up to other people on the outside. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.